Hello, everyone. My name is Felipe. I'm here with the Charter for Compassion for our Global Read webinar series. We are so excited to be able to host Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi with us with his book, Why Didn't You Come Sooner? Today's a special day to host this Global Read because it's World Day Against Child Labor. And so we're very grateful to be able to not only have Kailash here, but also to have our friend Gard Jameson, who not only is part of the board of trustees for the Charter for Compassion, but also the founder of Compassion in Las Vegas. And obviously to have here Kailash Satyarthi with us is an honor. And so, Gard, the floor is yours, and I have the video ready whenever you want.
Felipe, thank you so much. And Kailash, thank you so much for being here this morning. It's a real honor and privilege to have you here. I'm so grateful for the movement that you have helped to start. And just a little bit of introduction for the audience. Kailash received the Nobel Peace Prize along with Malala in 2014. And a lot of us have heard of Malala, but I'm going to suggest probably some of you have not heard of Kailash, but you need to hear of Kailash and the work that he and his beautiful wife and his community have created around helping children out of very desperate situations around the world, particularly in India. And so I'm recommending to all of you this book, Why Didn't You Come Sooner? It is 12 stories of 12 individuals, and it is the journey of Kailash to help these individuals find a path to freedom. So Kailash, welcome to you. And I think what we're going to do is start with a video, which gives a little bit of background on your work. And so again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Gard. It's my true honor and pleasure to interact with you today. I know the organization, I know the work you all have done so far for the betterment of humanity and future of humankind. But now it's great to be here with a compassionate leader and interact with you, Gard.
Thank you so much.
The joys and freedom of millions of children started with just one feeling. What if the child slave Sabo was my daughter? Sabo, who was about to be sold to a brothel. Sabo, whose desperate father lay in a heap at my feet. Perhaps it all started with a spark of compassion and today become a worldwide movement. I believe that each one of us is born with two natural gifts, consciousness and compassion. Both are the core reasons of our being. When we feel the suffering of others as our own suffering, with a strong drive to take action, that is compassion. God is not so meager that He has blessed us with only a little of compassion, which we have confined to our families and friends. We need to go beyond that. All that is required is to enlarge our circle of compassion. A touch of compassion is what makes each of us a problem solver, an innovator who is ready to accept all challenges and solve them. When we work towards making our world a better place, each one of us becomes a compassionate leader. In fact, all world religions and movements were born out of compassion. I stand with 8 billion people because the world is my family. In this age of interconnectedness, are we really connected with each other? Compassion is the greatest form of connectedness and love. There is no curse bigger than being alone. Loneliness is frightening. If you are connected, you are fearless. And we are the safest if we feel like a part of our global family. Where are the mothers of the children? They have been taken back. I am not a teacher or a preacher of compassion. I have made it a way of life. I truly believe that every solution lies in compassion in action. So, my dear friends, as we globalize markets, resources, and data, I urge you all to globalize compassion. Sangachadvam samvadadvam sambo manansi janatam deva bhagam yatha purve sanjananam upasate. We shall overcome one day.
Wow. An incredible video and an incredible movement that you helped to spark. And if you're anything like me, our wives sparked us and we helped spark the movement. So a tribute to our wives and to the feminine who has been involved in this work since the beginning. Because as the Buddha taught, it is about trying to love even as mothers love. And so we men have a little bit of difficulty with that. So Kailash, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to ask, to begin with, what event or person activated your interest in this work? How did it begin?
Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to share some of my stories and my thoughts, especially on this day, the World Day Against Child Labor. So I can congratulate everyone who had worked in eradication of child labor and is still fighting against child slavery in their own ways, not just me. There are millions of individuals and hundreds of organizations who should be credited for that. I'm one of them. Well, the very first event, Gerd, I remember was when I was 5-year-old, 5.5-year-old. It was the first day of my school in my small old hometown in central India. So the school was not a high-end or rich people's school. This is a ordinary people's or ordinary students' place. So when I was entering into the gate of the school, I saw a boy my age sitting right at the doorstep. He was a cobbler. So the boy was looking at our shoes, our feet, not at our face. And that was uncommon for me. Later on, I learned that he might be watching our feet because perhaps we could give him some job. And so I stopped for a few seconds and then entered in my class. So after a short introduction, being the first day boy, I asked my teacher, "Sir, why a child is sitting outside the school gate and not with the rest of us in the classroom?" Of course, it took me tremendous courage, and it was not easy to ask this very question on the very first day. So I was looking at the teacher's face for some answer. And he was also quite surprised. And then he said, "Come down. This is your first day. Make new friends. Be familiar with the school. And this is not uncommon," he said. Children have to help the families. As a child, I could not think more than that. So I sat down. Then, when I came back, I saw the boy still sitting under the scorching sun. There was no roof, there was nothing. It was in the corner of the street. And sometimes I found him sitting alone. Sometimes his father was there. Sometimes both of them were there. But almost every day, the father and son were looking for some earning every day. So I was watching him. I asked this to my mother, my elder brothers, and wise, educated relatives, and the answers were more or less similar. That okay, you have to concentrate on studies, and you started going to school and so on. But it was so painful to see him every morning and in the afternoon. So one day I gathered all my courage and went straight to both of them, father and son, and asked the same question. Father stood up with folded hands. You are an expert of Indian philosophy and India good, so you know that this discriminatory caste hierarchy and the caste system, how cumbersome, how cruel it is. Even now, but I'm talking about more than 60 years ago, what has happened. So he stood up, and boy was shy, but the man answered. He said, "Nobody has asked this question to me. I never thought about it. My parents, grandparents, everybody started this work since they were children, and so is my son." And then he took a pause, and I could not forget his eyes, his face, his miserability, his hopelessness, helplessness. And uh, then he said, "Sir, you guys are born to go to school, but we are born to work." And I started crying. I could not hold my emotion because I was fighting in myself. What is this all about? So nobody was answering. So I came back. I could not do anything. But the empty eyes of that boy, my age boy, and his father gave me a different perspective of life. Then I started seeing other children working in street restaurants and places like that I have never noticed before. They were not going to school as I was. But the more important thing which I have learned that day was to question. It is very easy to hide behind the age-old complacency, age-old answers, and the answers give you a shield. The questions are dangerous. So I started questioning that why these children are working, why this caste system prevails, why this discrimination is there, and so on, in my mind and with the people also. So that was the leading light, I would say, the question mark which has been raised that day by this boy and his father. And during my student life, I could do little bit things like some of my friends were leaving schools because their parents could not afford fees and syllabus books, textbooks. So I started collecting old used books from the children, the students and households, and collected thousands of the books and set up a book bank. And it was when I was 11-year-old. And it goes on, but later on I realized that it will not work. How many children I can help? this is so deep-rooted problem. And so my parents wanted to make me an engineer because I was good at mathematics and science subjects. English was not my mother tongue, neither I could learn English until that age of, say, 10 or 11. Until sixth grade, we were not taught English, or Hindi, mathematics, and Hindi, things like that. But later on, I thought that I should fulfill the dream of my parents because my father was a police constable. So we were not very poor, but we were not rich either. So my widow mother had uh, to help me and my elder brothers, and I wanted to continue further my engineering. Did my graduation and then specialization in high voltage transformer. So my mother had to sell or mortgage her ornaments and so on. So it was very difficult when I made a decision to leave this career. And there were not too many engineers who are specialized in high voltage transformer design in India, and the demand was everywhere in the world. It was the time of rural electrification globally by United Nations. So that was quite tough decision, but I took that decision because I could not do my justice to myself and justice to my dream, justice to my passion. So I gave up my career. And then I started a magazine called Struggle Shall Continue. In Hindi, it was Sangharsh Jari Rahega. So that was totally devoted for the cause of children and women who were deprived of their childhood and their human dignity and freedom and everything. So that was a new experiment in journalism in a way. It was the time when the human rights or humanitarian journalism was not yet there in India or many places in the world. So that was a typical kind of beginning of journalism. So I was the editor, I was the reporter, I was the photographer, just one man or one person's effort. Uh, by the time I got married and my wife was helping me and my son was born, he was 1 year old. So that was in 1981, the magazine began. And in few months' time, it became a little bit popular. People started buying and they were curious to learn more about such issues. One day, a desperate father knocked on my door, whose daughter was sold to be, who was about to be sold to a brothel. The 15-year-old girl named Sabo. So Sabo was born in slavery because her parents borrowed some money from the employer or the slave master at a brick kiln. So somehow this man named Wasal Khan came to know about me through someone who was the reader of my magazine. So he has given this journal to him and said that go to this guy, he will write you a story, and then perhaps the government agencies can help. So he came with this only expectation. But Kurt, when I was writing this, his story, that how the girl was grew up and could have been sold any moment. The brothel agents started coming and they were making her naked and you know and then negotiating the price and the slave master saying that she is a virgin girl, so it should be very expensive and so on, all kind of nonsense. So it was very unfortunate. So this man was weeping, crying, holding my feet. And so when I was writing, I thought that if she was my sister or my daughter, what would I do? I was 26-year-old also. I could not hold like that. I cannot wait, write a letter, write something in the magazine and just see whether somebody will help. So I didn't know when I gave up my pen and notebook and told Wasal Khan, he was a Muslim guy, I said, Wasal, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to rescue your daughter. And he said, no, 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 these people are very, they are criminal, they have guns and so on. All of us would be killed. But somehow we managed. Uh, I managed some of my friends to and made them agree to go with me. And I, of course, I need not to manage or I need not to convince my wife Sumedha. She was always kind enough, and she has take out her wedding ornaments to organize this thing, because this place was quite far from Delhi where we were living. So we had to hire a truck or a lorry, because Vassal said that there were more than 30 children, women, and men, and most of these children, all of these children were born and grew up in slavery there. And just we had to rent a big lorry. And then we went there. Wasal Khan was caught. I was beaten up. My colleagues were beaten up. We had to leave that place and ran away barefooted and and torn clothes and bruised and so empty hands, but not empty hearts. Sometimes I feel that heart is much bigger, much larger, with answers, not just mind, but heart can give much more purer answers. So I applied both, and so hand did not work. Hand were empty, but heart was filled with compassion, filled with emotion. And then me and my friends came back to Delhi and approached the High Court and filed a petition under the old British legal regime, habeas corpus. And then all the children, women, and men were freed. 36 women, men, and men were freed with the help of judiciary. And I can never ever forget those moments when these children were coming out from the court and they were jumping on the streets, or the cars were honking in the streets of Delhi. And and it was like you keep many frogs in a basket, and then you open the cover and suddenly they jump here and there and you have to hold everyone. So I was holding these children, and parents, mothers were running and holding the children and trying to hold their fingers and so on. And this beautiful sister of mine, 15-year-old Savo, and she was jumping like she thought that it's a playground, because they could not comprehend freedom. They could not comprehend that somebody can ever help them. They could not comprehend dignity, love, respect, anything. It's beyond their comprehension. And that was the moment of truth for me. I have read about moksha, mukti. I was also a kind of not like expert on philosophy like you, but I was very fond of reading religious books or books from different faiths, not just Indian Gita, Bhagavad Gita, or Ramayana and Vedas, but also um, Holy Quran and Bible and other books, whichever I could read in Hindi those days, the translation in my adolescence. So this was a real salvation or liberation or mukti for me, because I could see when these children hug their mothers and suddenly both of them start crying out of joy, and their tears roll down on their cheeks. It could something like the God is smiling, and God is smiling on me and on these children through the tears of these mothers and their children.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I think you can see Shiva, I'm pointing the wrong way, Shiva behind me, and Shiva is dancing upon the demon of ignorance, and Shiva is in bliss. And so I can only imagine that you, in doing this work, have discovered your own ananda, your own joy, your own bliss. So I want you to know that you've been an inspiration to me. I helped start a child welfare group called the Children's Advocacy Alliance in the state of Nevada state of Nevada is the loneliest state in the United States, according to the surveys, and been involved in a small school in Bihar called Free Schools with Sister Crescents. And it's a wonderful experiment in truth, as Gandhi talked about, where when the Catholic school shuts down, Sister Crescents opens it up for the Dalits, for the ones who don't have access to education. And as Confucius says, education education is the destroyer of class distinction or of caste. And so I just want you to know that you've been an inspiration in my life. Your story has touched my life so many miles away from you. And I'm sure many, many of our listeners and many, many people have been touched. I want to ask you now about your ashram, which is a place of education. Tell us how it began and tell us how it is supported and how long do the kids stay and what's the curriculum there?
Well, so uh, when we used to free the children physically, emotionally, spiritually, they were freeing us, but we were physically liberating them. So it's a two-way relationship. They were freeing us, and we were freeing them. So uh, then the biggest um, challenge, the very first day actually, started that where to keep these children, and sometimes the parents of these children. So I had a very small place to live, just one room. So we were already three, my wife, me, and my 1-year-old son, or two, then he became 2 or 3 year old later on, gradually. So we were very cautious that larger number of children and men, women should not be freed, smaller numbers so that we can bring them at home and all of us can sleep in that room and cook together and so on. That was happening in the initial days or say months. But when the word went out, a lot of complaints started coming. Some volunteers started joining us to help this cause. Media has taken the interest. So we had to take those families or those children to the nearby faith institution, some church or some gurdwara. Gurdwara has always been a place for free food. So gurdwaras, we have identified some gurdwaras. Uh, Temples and mosques were comparatively difficult, but somehow some people started thinking that it is a good work when they saw that it is not a kind of political thing, it's purely humanitarian. So uh, how we kept these children for a few days or few weeks, but it was not answer to the issue. So so that was the transit, I would say, the transition period. But even then, the food is needed, the shelter is needed every single day. So in the first case of Sabo and Hasal Khan, it appeared in the media, so many people brought some bananas, some fruits, some breads and other things next morning. But that was not the case every day. So then we have to think to set up something. So the first ashram called Mukti Ashram, a kind of liberation retreat, was set up in Delhi, outskirts of Delhi. It was a smaller place. Somehow, with the help of some supporters, we could get some land. That was in 1990. We started in 1981, so for 9 years, we had to struggle for keeping them with us for a few days or weeks. But later on, the Bhakti Ashram was set up. And then we felt that it is not enough. This place is very small because Delhi's land was very expensive. So we have set up a bigger ashram called Bal Ashram. So Bal Ashram was also a gift of a 10-year-old child. And she was my daughter. Asmita. So daughter was very much engaged in the work in our long marches for sensitization, education, and mobilization of people in India and abroad. So CNN made a documentary on her work, because this issue was quite new those days, uh, in uh, uh, in mid 90s or late 90s. So she was invited to speak at the U.S. Congressional hearings. So there were several senators and congressmen were listening. It was a testimony from a child who was living and working with former child slaves or child slaves. And then she was invited to address the big conference of workers in Canada. And they have offered her some money for her study and to stay in Canada or in US. But she was spontaneous and kind enough to tell to those people that perhaps my parents can educate me, not like this, not like high class education, but simple education. But there are many children, and they always struggle that how to educate them, how to keep them. So we wanted to, they were talking about setting up the ashrams, he told to those leaders of the Canadian Labour Congress. And they were in tears. They said that we cannot imagine that a 10-year-old girl can think of that. So they said that we take care of setting up the full ashram and uh, and the running cost for next 3 years at least.
Wow.
So with that gift she got from them, we bought the piece of land, and then they helped us in building some dormitories and classroom, 2 dormitories and 2 classroom. And so how this Bala Ashram was begin, that was the history, which also has a deep-rooted compassion. Uh, so then these freed children started living there. It was not a, never been a kind of idea of charity, because this conventional charity is no answer to solving the deep-rooted structural, institutional, systemic problems like child slavery and denial of education or caste system, as you said. So what kind of charity will work for that? You have to do something different, changing conscience, and then legal actions, and so many other things. So uh, we had that dream that these survivors of trafficking and slavery should be their own liberators and leaders. It should not be Kailash Satyarthi, or it should not be Sumedha Kailash's wife. It should not be other people in the organization. My son was also very active. He became a lawyer and helping in freeing the children, women. So it should not be the family thing. It should not be the close circle of those dedicated youth. So these children should emerge. That was the dream in the beginning. And I'm very, very pleased to say that thousands of survivors, children freed from slavery and child labor, have been educated in our ashrams. Then we had to set up an ashram for girls. So the girls' ashram is still there. So for boys and girls, it was a kind of a freedom home where they were not imposed anything, but we evolved ourselves with them and they evolved with us. So that was a journey we had together. Um, so that dream came true when many of them became the liberators and leaders in their own way. Hundreds of them have helped in stopping child labor or preventing child slavery and trafficking in their native villages, hundreds of children. So I cannot count. So every day or every time we meet and read somewhere, we don't keep an eye on every single child because the number is more than 100,000. But now many of them are grown up. They are the parents or grandparents of some children. So the head teacher of my Bal Ashram is a boy. He is a grandfather now, but he was a boy whom we freed in 1983 from child slavery. And now his children are very well educated and married to educated people and have their own children and doing their own work, professional people. Ram Kripal is his name. The man who signed all the checks even if I go to, I'm going to America next week or so, to Iowa, and the man who will sign all the checks and all the papers, uh, his name is Lakshman. So Lakshman was also a boy who was freed from slavery um, in same time, 83 or 84. And let me tell you just two sentences that when I brought these children from a truck, and when they were sitting on this in an open field, because then we had to do all the bureaucracy, bringing the magistrate or one to take the record of it. That boy, I saw that boy, one of the boys, Lakshman Master was that, he was looking at some children who were going to school from the same road. So I sat with him and I said that I could see that for several minutes you were looking at that boy. He said, every day I look at that boy because the same time when I carry the broken pieces of stones in my buckets uh, to pass it on to other child and then other child, I used to see that if I could go to school with the bag in my back, not the stones. And I was in tears, and I hugged him and I said, Lakshman, I can promise I will do if you like. And I asked his father also, and then he was sent to school. Then he became a teacher. He taught many children in that area later on after his freedom. Then he was interested in studying commerce, so he did his commerce work. So he became the accountant, and then he became the treasurer. And now he is the treasurer of the organizations, all my organizations, three or four, and he is the chief signatory to all the bank record and checks, Lakshman Master. So Bal Ashram is a kind of laboratory of compassion.
Yes.
Bal Ashram is the factory of compassionate youth leaders. Bal Ashram is like a heaven for me to live in. So I have no expectation to go to any other heaven, which is written in the mythology here and there. So this is the place where whenever I'm free, I go and spend some time. All the children stay together. Our staff, many of the staff members or activists are former child slaves. As I said, I've given the names of two. And we play with them, we eat with them. Everybody is one. If you come there, you can never differentiate who is the director or head teacher and who is a child, or everybody is equal. So we try to live with that very basic principle, and that has uh, made them leaders and liberators. They are our children.
It's so beautiful. They are our children. And my wife, Kailash, and I started a free and charitable healthcare clinic. And we have a saying, which is, may we reach out and touch the underserved with love. And in the process, we will free ourselves. And the doctors and nurses and volunteers who come to help us tell us this is why they got into healthcare. And they feel that experience of liberation. So, as you say, it's a very reciprocal experience. And also, as you say, child welfare is a fairly new phenomena, right? Charles Dickens wrote about it in the 1800s, but not till the mid 1900s did people start thinking maybe we should do something about this. And so there were some very primitive forms in England and even in America, but it's very much a different scene now. I saw a picture in the video of you with Bill Clinton, and I remember the story from the book, uh,
Yeah,
where you had one of your children there who astounded the Queen of Jordan, who astounded Carrie Kennedy, the daughter of Robert F. Kennedy, and I will say senior,
yeah,
um, very clearly. Um,
yeah, yeah. That is good
very clearly.
because we see the junior one now.
Oh, no, he's not helping
In a
children.
different incarnation.
Oh, the Kennedys are not happy with that boy.
Right.
Maybe he needs to come to Bel Ashram. Well, I will send a very strongly worded letter to him to say, you should go to Bel Ashram and see how child welfare works. But I want you maybe to just sort of share that experience of being at the United Nations, of speaking, of this young person speaking to this group of esteemed people, and how it changed their view about child welfare and the world around them.
Well, these empowered children, actually, all of them has tremendous potential, tremendous power. No voice could be more compelling, louder, genuine, honest, uh, and purer voice than the voice of these survivors and children. So that has always been the philosophy of all my movements, all my social mobilizations, the long marches, the global march against child labor, which went across 103 countries, and so on. Similarly, all the major events and issues. So this was like this Kalu's case when he stood eye to eye, spoke eye to President of United States, Bill Clinton. So Clinton was releasing the book written by Kerry Kennedy, and there was a chapter on me alongside 49 other champions or change makers in the world. She was kind enough to somehow find. I was the youngest that time, and I was the most ordinary person in the league of those people, Dalai Lama and Aung Suu Kyi and all those. Many of them were Nobel laureates. That was in late 90. So I wrote to Kerry that, Kerry, I'm so grateful that you are inviting me for this event, the launch of the book. And that was a lot of series of activities, high profile people and so on, including this White House event. So I wrote to her that I genuinely feel that if it is my success story and celebration, the real credit goes to some children. And if you allow that, I would like to bring a child and we can go together. He was thrilled. She was thrilled, and she is one of the most beautiful persons I have come across. Very genuine fighter, always like my sister, my friend, family member. And then we had good friendship since then. So that was the beginning of our friendship when she got this letter, and very generously said that, yes, you can bring a child. So Kalu was selected among all the people from ashram. And when he was there, um, he met the people, and he was a center of attraction for all. He has a different kind of personality, completely black, looks like American, what this black American or whatever you call the colored or African, and his face was big, and the teeth was like that, all the time smiling, and always radiating positive energy. So it has also attracted uh, President Clinton, who came to him and shook hand and started talking. So Kalu introduced himself and then asked him that, Mr. President, I am the former child labor. I am one of those 250 million children. My question is that what are you doing for those children? You are sitting in the highest position. Not exactly the same words, but similar words. So Clinton thought that this boy has been parroted to speak like that. So he asked some other questions, and Kalu was frank enough to answer all these questions. And then Kalu told him that it is not necessary. I know that you are going to be going to because that was his some of uh, I think the 6 months remained in his second tenure. So Kalu has said that it is not necessary that one has to be the president of United States to save these children, but you can continue even after your retirement. And Clinton hugged Kalu, and that was a great thing. And within a week, we saw on television that President Clinton uh, was so moved, he has announced 5 times more US funding for eradication of child labor through ILO IPAC program. So, to basically for African countries, but that was a great, great uh, gesture of him. And so that was Kalu. Similarly, Devli was the one who has somehow challenged Queen of Jordan and Shakira once she joined a campaign which we have initiated, global campaign for education. And there was an event in US at Capitol Hill, and Shakira was invited to talk and meet the lawmakers in US. And this girl, Devli, was also there, who was freed from intergenerational slavery. And she had questioned Shakira that time that, what are you doing? You should speak out for girls like me. You are also a girl. And so was with Queen Rania of Jordan. So these children are pure in heart and so on.
Beautiful.
Leaders, actually.
You know, we have a saying here in Nevada that I coined. It says that the state of Nevada will never be better than the state of our children. And I would extend that, with your permission, that the state of the planet will never be better than the state of our children. And the state of our children is not good. Bill Gates estimates that with the withdrawal of USAID, over 300,000, mostly children, have died. And the media doesn't pick that up very often. The
Yeah.
media doesn't share that kind of news because it's not Bill Clinton or it's not this person or that person. So behind you, you have a wonderful saying, do your bit for children. What would you recommend to our listeners as to how they could get involved? And I love the image of the hummingbird because we have 5 of them in our backyard. I have very good conversations with them occasionally. Um, how can we be hummingbirds of compassion in our own space?
Well, uh, of late, recently, my colleagues and I have launched this new campaign or new movement, which is an expansion of all our 4 decades, 4.5 decades work, fighting child slavery and for education and so on, discrimination, etc., etc. So we have realized that, and I have realized actually, that we have plethora of constitutional guarantees, laws. World has never been so wealthier, faster, advanced, filled with knowledge and resources as it is today. But world has never been so broken, so divided, and sometimes so hypocrite as it's going every day today. So that is the harsh reality. Though I'm a very optimistic person, but the harsh reality is that we are becoming more and more artificial. It is not just artificial intelligence, but our way of life has become more hypocritic and artificial. And that then we are not able to solve any of these global problems because the solutions are giving birth to new problems. And during pandemic, the reports came that the number of child laborers had grown uh, before pandemic actually. During pandemic, the report came, but number of out of school children in sub-Saharan Africa has grown. The proportionate number of children who were living in chronic poverty has grown. All these things were growing despite all the money. During the 4 years between 2016 and 2020, the world has become $11 trillion richer. But 10,000 African children were pushed into child labor every single day. So, where does the problem lie? So, I realized that this is the lack of compassion. Means the feeling for the suffering of others as our own suffering that can motivate and make you active to solve the problems, to alleviate the suffering. Then I started thinking that we have to redefine, reinvigorate, because it's always the evolution of philosophy, evolution of approaches, evolution of definitions. So I tried to think of the definition of compassion, because that has been my call during the Nobel acceptance speech, that we have globalized markets and economies and data and everything. This is the time to globalize compassion. But what does it mean to globalize compassion? So we started thinking that we have to put it in simplest word. So the compassion in simplest words is selfless and mindful problem solving. If you solve your problem and others' problem selflessly and mindfully, this is compassion. It is not a difficult philosophical or spiritual or religious issue. And we are all born with this innate power of compassion. So we have launched this Satyarthi movement for global compassion. And that was also driven by this hummingbird story. And perhaps you have watched my acceptance speech, or then I'm not someone who is so confident in reading something in my speeches. So, and I don't care if I make mistake, I make mistake. I'm one of those millions of children whom I worked with and lived with in my life. So I don't have any shield of being educated or learned or whatever. So I I was holding the papers because the Nobel Committee has asked me to give the written speech. But I was even carrying the paper, I lost some of the pages, some of the papers. And then a story came to mind. And that is this story of hummingbird. That there was a heavy fire broken out in jungle. All the animals, including king lion, uh, rushing for a safer place, leaving the jungle. Then lion noticed a tiny hummingbird flying straight towards the flames, towards the fire. And surprisingly, he shouted, "What are you doing? Committing suicide? Where are you going?" She said, "Sir, I was born and grew up here. I cannot leave it like that. I am going to extinguish this fire." More surprisingly, he said, "Come on, how come? How could you do it?" Then she said, "Look at my beak. I am carrying a drop of water. I am doing my bit." All of us have an humming fire, a hummingbird inside us. She is suppressed. She is somehow kept dormant due to our egos, due to our wasted interest, due to our artificiality, our hypocrisy, all kind of things. Our whole upbringing has suppressed our hummingbird. God has sent us with that hummingbird. And whenever we wanted to help someone, whenever we wanted to solve others' problem, as these problems are our own problem, this is because of that hummingbird. And for me, that hummingbird is compassion. So compassion is like an oxygen for me. It's an oxygen for everyone. This is the oxygen of humanity. All the religions, all revolutions, all social transformation, all the good work was born out of compassion, the spark of compassion. And compassion is not a weak emotion or a softer, kinder feeling. It's a force born out of feeling, deep feeling for the suffering of others as your own suffering, that compels you to take urgent action to alleviate that suffering or to solve that problem. So the strong action element, the strong force, compassion is the transformative force. If we wanted to make our world just world, equitable, sustainable, and peaceful world, it cannot be possible without globalization of compassion. So I can urge all of your listeners, and it would be my pleasure, my honor, and I would be humbled to work with every single person who is working for compassion in the world. I would follow, and I would be happy to work with any one of you.
Fantastic. And we will provide the resource information to our listeners, and we will spread this message wide and far. And I think it's appropriate to close with the words of His Holiness, which is that love and compassion are not luxuries, they are necessities. Without them, humanity will not survive. And I believe that is true. So I thank you for being an ambassador of love and compassion. And as I often say, I also thank your wife, who I've seen in all of these pictures, because I know my wife, right? Without her, I couldn't do this. And I know the same is true with you, Kailash. So it was such an
Please,
honor to meet you in Mexico with all the Nobel Prize laureates. God bless your work. And I encourage our listeners to support and help and to read the incredibly beautiful stories of 12 children. Yeah, yeah. And,
both
and
of us.
each of our listeners can ask ourselves the question, why didn't we come sooner?
Yeah.
What could we do as the hummingbird to put out the fire? So, namaste. I salute the highest within you, my friend. God bless
Namaste.
your work.
Namaste, everyone.
I turn it back over to my friend Felipe.
Thank you.
I
Thank
feel
you both for such an incredible conversation. What a joy and what an opportunity and privilege to be able to witness everything that was said today. So thank you both for that. I just wanted to take a couple really short minutes to let you know about all the ways that you can put to practice your compassion with the different events that are happening with the Charter for Compassion. So today at 10 a.m. Pacific or 4 p.m. Pacific time, there is a global screening for There Is Another Way, which is a film, a documentary about the genocide. I mean, everything that is happening in Gaza and Israel and the conflict there. We also have the Global Music Harmony of Humanity that goes all the way through July with Marilyn Turkovich. This is our webinar where we see and connect humanity throughout time and geography. And it's every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific. So you can join us there. Our EdNet forum for next Thursday on June 19th is with the Palestinian Conflict Resolution Transformation Center. You can register on our website. And then we have conversations, geographically speaking, for people that want to put to practice more compassion in their own countries or communities. We have chats in the UK, the US, and then New Zealand and Australia. You can also look at those at the event calendar in our website. Sacred Laughter and Interfaith Mysticism is a course that is starting on June 26th with our friend from the Interfaith Amigos, Imam Jamal Rahman. You can register on our website as well. Our Compassionate Action Conference that happened, a month ago or so. We have the recordings for the videos, and you can still register to watch those recordings, and you will have access to those for a whole year. And our monthly Sangha, every last Saturday of the month, we get together for an hour and a half where we have time to meditate, share, and also have some silence and share with other people all around the world. And our next global read is with author Willie Edward Taylor Carver, and the book is Gay Poems for Red States. This is going to be on Wednesday, July 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and I will be the facilitator for that. We also have the award-winning documentary, The Spirit of Ubuntu, that is now available free on Bing TV and YouTube. And with that, my friends, we say thank you so much once again to both Kailash and Hagard and everybody that attended. And we'll be seeing you on our next global read in July. Thank you.
Felipe, thank you. Kailash, namaste.